He is risen indeed. Happy Easter. Those words are familiar to us, and were kind of fun to say them any day, but especially Easter, but nothing like that was said on the original Easter morning. What we say with conviction and confidence would have sounded like foolishness back then, even to those closest to Jesus. Thursday and Friday had been terrible days. Jesus had been accused of treason and blasphemy. He was tortured, tried in a kangaroo court, convicted, executed, and his lifeless body placed in a borrowed tomb under heavy guard. On that first Easter morning, there was a lot of doubt, fear, guilt, confusion, and probably a lot of disbelief. Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early, while it was still dark, and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, which would be John, and said to them, "They've taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have taken them." Well, it's unclear who the "they" is that Mary was referring to. We say "they say" all the time, but nobody defines who they are. The "they" could have been the enemies of Jesus, maybe the guards, the people who wanted him dead so badly. But whoever they are, why would they want to hide the body of Jesus? Even though Mary was wrong about people stealing his body, it is true that they, whoever they are still trying to hide Jesus. This past Sunday, Oprah had a multi-hour TV special called Super Sunday. I listened to it for about 10 minutes, and that's about all I could handle. She interviewed an Episcopal priest who obviously dismissed the Bible as myth, metaphor, or something less than the truth. Both Oprah and the priest bemoaned the fact that they had been raised in conservative Baptist homes. While they both said that Jesus was divine, they steered away from anything like saying that Jesus was the Son of God, and of course avoided the message of salvation and resurrection. I'm just positive there were Oprah followers watching it and drooling over what they heard. In addition, during Holy Week, there were two anti-Christian movies that played on TV. One of them was called The Story of Brian, which many people are not familiar with. It was put on by the Monty Python gang, which mocks Jesus. The backstory of this movie is that it was George Harrison, yes, the Beatle, who was quite anti-Christian, who funded this movie. The movie was banned in Britain, Ireland, and Norway for decades. The other movie that just happened to fall on Holy Week was The Last Temptation of Christ, which caused quite an uproar among Christians when it first came out. It suggests that Jesus, like all humans, was evil by nature. And in Greece, where the book was written, the Greek Orthodox Synod banned the book. So attempting to hide the real Jesus is still going on today. People make up their own stories. They spout their own opinions of God and Jesus. They make up their own human explanations. Even though people try to hide Jesus today, on that first Easter, Mary was mistaken. No one had taken his body. No one had tried to hide it. Back to John. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, John, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they laid him." So Peter went out with the other disciple, and they were going toward the tomb. Both of them were running together, but the other one, John, outran Peter and reached the tomb first. And stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter, following him, went into the tomb. He saw the linen cloths lying there, and the face cloth which had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, John, who had reached the tomb first, also went in, and this is a striking little sentence, and he saw, and he believed. What did he believe? Well, he believed that Jesus was risen. God always does the unexpected. He let people know who he was by using 12 nobodies, the disciples. He revealed his birth to the lowest of the low, the shepherds. He reveals himself to unworthy, sinful people like you and I today. I guess it'd be you and me, wouldn't it? If there's anyone trying to hide Jesus or obscure the truth about him, it is Satan. He tries to hide Jesus in science, philosophy, psychology, education, mass media, technology, finances, everything and everywhere he can think of. But Jesus just won't stay hidden. He revealed himself in the Bible. He reveals himself today in the same place and in preaching and in churches all over the world, in songs and psalms, and especially in his resurrection. Attempting to hide Jesus is like trying to hide the sun on a cloudless day. As much as Satan and the world try to hide Jesus, he breaks through the lies, the deception, the doubts, the foolish thoughts, and the words. He is risen. He is risen indeed. Then the disciples went back to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They," whoever they are, "have taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have laid him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing, but she did not know that it was Jesus, maybe because of her tears. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid his body, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and that he had said these things to her. One of the striking things about this and the other Gospels is that they didn't tell the story exactly alike. Yet they had years to get their story straight. All four of them told the story in their own way, sometimes even seeming to contradict each other. Some say that this proves they were lying. Actually, it proves quite the opposite. Criminals, if they have a chance, try to get their stories aligned so that when they're questioned later by the police, they're all on the same page. The writers of the gospel were all on the same page, but told the story from their own perspective. Remarkably, or maybe predictably, 11 of the 12 disciples, when threatened with death and finally killed, stuck to their original testimony. I once read, and I've quoted this phrase many times, about trying to defend the gospel. The gospel is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just let it loose, and it'll take care of itself. He is risen. He is risen indeed. Happy Easter. Amen.